So what is a tax expenditure? Now, I know a lot of you are in the VITA field, so you know what tax expenditures are. So they're deductions, they're credits, they're deferrals, reduced rates on capital gains, all these provisions in the tax code that allow folks to pay less taxes. But when we're advocating, and usually when we're interacting in the field, we don't talk about these. These make people's eyes glaze over. When you talk about refundability or deductions or credits, it's a difficult subject to talk about. An easier way to talk about tax expenditures is this, that it's government spending by another name. And that's not just my idea. This is an idea that's been in the tax policy world for quite some time. This is Stanley Surrey, who was he was a liberal economist. He was with the Treasury Department in FDR, Truman, Kennedy, and LBJ's Treasury Departments. He coined the term tax expenditure, and he coined it to describe this. He said, in effect, it represents monetary assistance provided by the government. But again, not just liberal lefties. This is Donald Marin, who was in George W. Bush's Council of Economic Advisors. He also headed up the Congressional Budget Office and the Joint Economic Committee. He had an article recently in the last few years that was called Spending in Disguise. And it was describing these tax expenditures that were effectively just government spending, but in disguise, not through the budget, but through the tax code. And then my personal favorite is Tom Coburn. He was a senator for Oklahoma, never confused with a liberal, was a severe budget hawk, and described tax expenditures as no different from any other federal program that spends taxpayer money. So this is a very important concept, and I want to dive a little bit deeper into it because it's crucial for our understanding about how the federal government subsidizes wealth. And so we're going to dive in and have an example of this, comparing how the federal government supports housing through the tax code and how it supports housing through the budget code. So we're going to bring in two groups of people. You might remember these blocky stick figures from before. We're going to have low-income renters on the right here, and then we're going to have some high-income homeowners. And we're playing the role of the federal government right now. So since we're the federal government, we have revenue. We have revenue that we can spend as we like. We can send it to one group or another. We can subsidize different activities. And in this case, the thing that we want to subsidize is housing. We want to ensure that these low-income renters can afford their housing. So what do? We take some of our revenue and we send it over to these Americans in the form of Section 8 vouchers. So we create this program, we carve out some money from the budget, and we send them money in the form of Section 8 vouchers. But we don't want to stop there because as the federal government, we also care about these high-income homeowners. We want to ensure that they can afford housing too. And so what do? We don't give them Section 8 vouchers. There are income cutoffs. Instead, we create a tax program. In this example, it's the real estate tax deduction, or the state and local property tax deduction, as it's also known. And we send the money in the form of that tax program. Now, the reason why I'm putting these side by side, these programs, the Section 8 vouchers and the real estate tax deduction, is that they produce the same results in two key respects. First, both of these groups are getting money. They no longer have to spend their own dollars on housing, or they get to reduce the total amount of dollars they're spending on housing. They can now spend that on going out to the movies or going to vacations or purchasing education for their kids or whatever they want to spend money on. They're using these federal dollars now to pay for their housing or some portion of their housing. And then the other way that these programs are effectively the same is that they take away money from the federal government. That money is now in the hands of these individuals. So if the federal government wants to invest in education or wants to pay down the debt or make any other kind of investments that it makes, it can't do it because it's already spent that money. It's got to raise money another way, either by raising taxes or by cutting funding for other programs. So this is a crucial concept for understanding exactly how the federal government subsidizes wealth because, as we'll see, it does it mainly through the tax code. But we should think of that spending through the tax code as no different than the Section 8 spending or any other kind of spending that the federal government does.